In today's episode, I'm going to show you how I finished off my LEGO Alleyway. Previously, I finished off the back part of the alleyway, so today I'm going to be working on the area with the sidings. On to the next building. This is a large one-story warehouse. It's mostly made up of large industrial windows, but a few of them near the doorways are bricked up to match its real-life counterpart. Just like my other large industrial buildings, these panels all look similar, so to add interest, I added in piping detail. To me, this makes the exterior look less repetitive and boring. Along the back, we have this addition that stores a bunch of heating and ventilation equipment, so I made a bunch of cool looking vents sticking out that exhaust air through ducts leading to the roof. The piping and vents are what makes the structure look interesting. For the other side, I've filled it out using the same large window panels, but I've left it void of any small details as I'm not sure what will be here. I might change this out into a loading dock. At the front here is the warehouse entrance, where the tracks enter. It has a large black industrial looking garage door. The space here is where a smaller set of low-rise commercial buildings will connect to. The real building that inspired this mock had a lot of vines covering the front, so I reproduced this using leaf pieces as the vine and peppering the front with plant plates, carrot tops, and stems. I think the vines just add so much cool detail and it really makes the building look aged and weathered. There are a lot of building roof elements here. When I was trying to find building techniques for the roof elements like AC vents, ducts, and other machinery, I was checking out other builds and YouTube videos to get inspiration. After trying them out, I placed them on this building to see how they looked, and I kind of never took them off. As a result, this building has a large number of roof details. The real building also had an abundant amount of roof elements, so I decided to keep them all here as well. Let's talk about the switch here. First, this switch isn't a standard LEGO switch. The standard LEGO switches are too sharp for the look and feel I'm going for. It just doesn't look right. So I decided to use a third-party switch. This one is by Brick Tracks, and I used them for a couple reasons. First, their switch looks pretty good, and two, they already provide a stud IO file, and the 3D model can be imported into Blender. Otherwise, I would have to model the switch from scratch. I used 9-volt rail throughout the rest of the scene because it looks better, but this switch is gray plastic, so it doesn't match. I'm willing to leave it as is for now and deal with this issue later. In the last video, I mentioned how I want the track embedded in pavement to be surrounded by light gray tiles. This simulates the look of tracks surrounded by concrete plates in real life, instead of just being embedded in asphalt. We come to the issue of how to deal with curves and switches. Filling them in with conventional bricks leaves huge gaps and looks ugly. I looked into more advanced ways to tackle this, and the best looking solutions were when people 3D printed their own filler parts to fill curves. While not official LEGO, it works for me because it still preserves the look, feel, and artistic character of LEGO. So what I did in my digital city was to fill in as many gaps as possible using standard pieces, but then use custom parts to fill in the rest. The condition here is that any part must preserve the LEGO look. I wanted to show what it would look like here so others can visualize what it might look like if they go and try this route in their own LEGO city. I've seen from Google you can definitely stretch the limits on how far you want to go with custom 3D printed LEGO parts. But for me, in this case of switches and curves and pavement, the option of just using standard parts takes away from the artistic experience of what I'm trying to do, so that's why I've decided to experiment with this method here. And with that, the final result looks pretty good. Getting the flange spacing correct would have been difficult with real LEGO, but is not so important in digital LEGO. So I'll probably follow this strategy going forward for any curved tracks embedded in pavement, including streetcar tracks. The next building I wanted here was a few one-story low-rise commercial buildings, something like an engine or tire repair shop. These are small and there isn't anything interesting structurally, however, I really like the look of them. All the vents, windows, and piping look like they weren't planned when the building was built, but rather placed ad hoc as necessary by the previous owners. On the back side we have a loading dock with track access, but I think I'll model the track as being unused. Beside the commercial buildings, we have some old multi-story mixed-use buildings. I wanted to experiment using some multicolored red and dark red plates and door pieces to create the look of uneven weathered brick. I wanted the building to extend out into the alley and cast shadows down onto the ground without actually taking up any footprint, so I did this by adding a ladder system for the building fire escape. It makes this corner look dark and damp. The building's roof is stepped, and the roof has access via this door. I'm not sure if this is the final configuration, as I'll be running an elevated rail through this area and I may need to make some adjustments here. This section ends off with a tan brick building. It has a truck loading dock, but I left it incomplete as I'm not sure on the size of the building or what will be happening on the other side yet. Bordering the alleyway is a fence. It starts as a chain link fence, but is replaced by a cinder block wall near the end. The fence is like a magnet to garbage, and there's nothing stopping nature as vines grow up and over the fence with no issues. I like how the weeds and garbage adds to the ambience that this alleyway is dirty. Time for my favorite part, adding the small details. It's like telling the story of the neighborhood. Like previously, since the alleyway is surrounded by commercial and industrial buildings, I threw around some industrial garbage you might see, such as metal parts and wooden pallets. Hey, there's someone taking out some trash cans right now. I also scattered in various 1x2 tiles with various printed designs to look like tossed candy wrappers and other paper litter. Lightweight trash tends to get blown by the wind until they are pushed up against fences or accumulate at damp corners. We pass a lone, thin, almost dead tree amidst a sea of junk. These commercial buildings have gone a long way, different colors for each unit, and a facade full of electrical wires and pipes. I bet nobody has used this bike in a while, just left alone for years. This unit has some sort of leak, something gross staining the wall an ugly brown color. This is where the siding branches off the spur. The garbage bins barely give enough space for any boxcars that are pushed in here. The trains probably have to crunch through some garbage on the way here. As we approach the square warehouse at the end, we're greeted by a large black garage door. The front and sides being covered with vines make a rather plain entrance look like an escape from the junk-filled alleyway. I wonder where this guy's headed to. Don't trip over that box. On the backside, we see this old spur. No trains have been here in a while, so people just throw their junk off the side, the wind pushing everything against the wall at the end. So at the beginning we started with this, and now we finished off the alleyway. I'll be adding an elevated rail through the scene at some point, and continuing the city from this point, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.